Hello. This is going to be, let me just check those levels. Going to turn the old gain down a little bit because it might be a little bit too loud. That looks a bit better. Okay. Today I am going to be doing a slightly different video than usual and hopefully a really informal one, just me chilling out. I've had a bit of a slower day today, so it's given me the opportunity to delve into an aspect of the Ink in the Margins project. You'll see the book here, which is available. Obviously, there's a few songs up and streaming at the moment. There's a couple more coming out imminently. One of the things I did throughout this project, and I'm really pleased that I did, is initially I decided that whoever I collaborated with on this project, I wanted to find out what their motivations were, what their story was, what their take on music is these days. And so I drafted out a list of questions at the very beginning. I thought, right, I'm going to ask everyone involved these questions, and it would be really interesting to see the answers. And while not everyone's done them, which I completely understand, a lot of people have, and it's been really interesting. So I thought I would do, and some of these questions are really stupid, but some of them are a bit more introspective. So I thought, just with a cup of tea, let's go through them and let's just see what interesting snippets, tidbits come out of it. So without further ado, the first set of answers I've got today, I've decided, you might say I've done this alphabetically, is Al Heslop. So for those of you who read the book, you'll know that he helped me on Night Drive. He produced that, but he also played a bit of guitar and bass on it as well. But then also he was a real he was a real support during the whole project, and he actually helped me with some of the mastering at the end as well. And it was really useful to have someone with his technical knowledge, because when you have zero technical knowledge, it really helps to have at least some. And Al's knowledge was more than at least. It was at most. I don't know what sort of rabbit hole I'm going down there, but he has a lot of technical knowledge. But anyway, he's a lovely guy, and he's just one of these really nice guys, very unassuming, but very, very talented. So I thought I would read out some of his questions. I've got them here, all printed, and what I'll probably do is when I've got to the end of these videos, I'll probably do my answers to the questions as well. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, keep your eyes peeled and your ears peeled and whatever. So question number 1, and this is Al. How would you describe your musical background? So he's written, my main instrument is guitar. I can play bass guitar reasonably well, more than reasonably. I've dabbled with piano and drums to varying degrees of success, so always came back to guitar as my main instrument. I studied classical guitar at school until the age of about 12, achieving grade 6. It's a very detailed answer. And actually, I'll jump in there. When you watch him play, you can really tell the classical training. The way his fingers move on the fretboard, it's just very practiced, and there's minimal movement, which is what they always say. People that are sort of lifting up their fingers too much. None of that with Al. It's very economic. I became bored of classic guitar and much preferred playing electric, learning songs by Dire Straits, Queen, Metallica, the Eagles, etc. My dad is also musical. He's a self-taught keyboard player, and we used to spend a lot of time jamming songs. He was a huge part of my musical education. From about the age of 14, I started to play in bands at school, and into my 20s, these ranged from playing Oasis covers to Incubus-style new metal originals, and various progressive projects after that. And so, very comprehensive answer there. Puts most other people to shame in that respect. But his progressive stuff is what sort of I admire most about Al. He's got this band Heights, and again, for those who've read the book, a lot of that was an influence for Night Drive. So he's just really good. Yeah. What instrument would you learn if you could learn only one other? He's gone for piano. I think it gives such a huge foundation and covers such a broad tonal range. I can't argue with that. I mean, it really does. It's the default, isn't it? It's the staple. You can do pretty much anything with a piano, if you're good enough. Do you have any amusing musical anecdotes or stories? Think on-stage accidents, coincidences, nightmare bandmates or collaborators, etc. He says, actually nothing too out of the usual to report on that. Sorry, he apologises. That's Al, although he's like a Canadian. He just apologises for stuff he shouldn't even apologise for. The most frustrating appearance was when one of my bands was doing a headline slot at a good venue and all our equipment decided to die. A guitar, ramp, pedal board, bass guitar, broken sticks and snare skin, etc. We thought we got through it, but literally wanted to sink into the earth and disappear about halfway through the set. From a sound engineer perspective, I can remember trying to take on a huge steel drum band project in the studio and ended up recording it in shifts of 2 people at a time. It was a good learning experience from what is and is not achievable in the studio space I have. For those who... steel drum band, his studio isn't the biggest of studios, so I can imagine it might have been a bit of a squeeze in that one. So yeah, fine. What is your favourite song? It's the big one, and I've said or top 5 if there's no one stand out. So I've given people the chance to cop out if they need to. He says, I'm going to be boring here and name a classical piece. Fantasia on a Theme by Thomas Tallis by Ralph Vaughan Williams. I'm going to bring that up. I've talked to him about this, and he's talked to. I mean, he's really sort of recommended Vaughan Williams. I think he loves that guy. Yeah, I got it playing in the background. A little snippet. This is 15 minutes long, so I'm not going to play all of it. But I'll be honest, I haven't actually listened to this all the way through before. But he says the piece is super atmospheric and is effectively an arrangement of an old folk song, but in a 20th century romantic style with lush orchestration. It was arranged with the acoustics of a cathedral in mind, and after its first premiere in 1910, he says, I think, a lot of Ralph Vaughan Williams' contemporary composers roamed the street for hours afterwards in awe and discussing the magic they had just heard. It's a fairly cop-out answer in terms of Vaughan Williams' output, as he composed loads of other incredible pieces, symphonies, etc. But as a gateway into his world, I'd highly recommend it. It is magical. You will have heard it probably. You can imagine it being a soundtrack to a sci-fi film, or a slightly Arabic tinge to it. The modern day plane overhead. I'm going to listen to that properly soon, but anyway, yeah, it's lovely. It's so good. But I love sort of, this is one of the reasons I like this, because it sort of puts you onto things that you might not necessarily have listened to. I mean, I wouldn't have listened to that if Al hadn't mentioned it. So, yeah. Fantasia on a Theme by Thomas Tallis. What is your favourite album, or top 5 if there is no one standout? He says, I'll go back to bands here and say Queen, Sheer Heart Attack. It was Queen really finding their feet as an original sounding band, and the songwriting, production and performances all worked so well together. Brian May's guitar orchestration is as unique and creative as ever on that album. I studied it a lot when learning guitar, and it has a lot of nostalgic value for me too. Nostalgia is a big one, I think. You know, if you've listened to something when in your youth, again, I talk about this in the book, it really sort of makes a mark in your musical lexicon. Even if it's rubbish, I mean, it's like a film. If you watched a film when you're younger, no matter if it's good or not, if you associate it with that sort of childlike joy, then there's nothing quite like that, I think. Yeah. Having said that, Queen are universally understood to be very good, obviously. What or who is your favourite band or musician? He said, I would have to say Brian May or not Mark Knopfler. It's a classic guitarist. This question is a bit of a stupid question, but I've asked everyone. Beatles or Stones? Al has answered Beatles, and he said, from a creativity standpoint, that question, as you'll find out, will be a little one-sided as we go through. How do you listen to your music? i.e. on vinyl, Spotify, CD, radio, etc. He says, mainly Apple Music these days. I prefer the quality to Spotify and try and listen in lossless as much as I can. Now, even after all this time, I'm not 100% sure what lossless means. But I do know that the compressions of the different files are slightly different between different between different streaming platforms. So yeah, I go into a lot about the sound and the change to the sound that's made when you do different things to music files. Yeah, I mean, streaming is really convenient, but it does diminish the range a little bit of the music. But hey. So, where and when do you listen to music? Usually when out walking the dog, I'm listening to something for enjoyment. I listen to a lot of music critically at work, including reference tracks when mixing, mastering, etc., which must get on your nerves a bit, you know, when you're just doing that all day, every day. What is your favourite genre if you had to pick one? He said classical, which is interesting. Lyrics or melody? He's gone for melody. That's what I would say. Interesting, the split between. It'll be useful to see what the split between that is, because that's a big fascination for me as to why some people listen to music. A lot of the time it's for the poetry, and they don't necessarily register the melodies, and likewise, I mean, for me, certainly I don't really listen to lyrics, at least, although I put a lot of thought into them when I write them. But yeah, if you write music, do you prefer to do so alone or collaborating with others? He says, I've always preferred writing an idea alone and then bringing it to others to collaborate with in a band setting. However, these days I enjoy the freedom of being able to compose alone and making quick decisions. It's nice to get feedback along the way, though. Yeah, I resonate a lot with that. I think I'm the same, really. I think making quick decisions is always easier when you're on your own, because there's not conflicting viewpoints, I suppose. So you can just make a decision on something. But for me, it also gives the space of being able to think about what your mind wants to do with something without being worried that someone's going to jump in and suggest something else completely different and derail stuff. Pros and cons. What is your favourite Christmas song? Bearing in mind it is currently the 22nd of December, so there's Christmas songs all over the place. He's gone for the Christmas song, the Nat King Cole version. We'd better play that, because I'm not 100% sure. I am familiar with that. Oh no, okay, yeah. Obviously I am. I would know it more as chestnuts roasting on open fire. Chestnuts roasting on an open fire. It is great, isn't it? It is lovely. In fact, I'll keep that on for low level. Just in the background. Because it is Christmas. What is the best gig you've been to? He says Mark Knopfler at the Royal Albert Hall. Considering what his other answers are, for Al, that must have been a big deal. Favourite artist at somewhere like that. I've been to the Royal Albert Hall once. It's quite the venue. I can only imagine what Mark Knopfler would be like there. Fab. What is the worst gig you've been to? He says too many to recall. Probably a local metal gig night. Yeah. I've been to a few of those. Who would play you in a film? He says, I've been told I look like James Corden and then Hugh Jackman when I lost loads of weight. Probably some awful mashup of the two. I can see that. And I am a super recognizer, so I can tell faces very well. What is the best musical decade in your opinion? Now, this is going to be an interesting one across the board. We'll maybe do a summary video at the end just to tot up all of the different answers. He's gone for 70s. He says, I think. 70s, interesting. He's roughly my age, so yeah, that's an interesting one. Because obviously, or at least I would suspect, people's choice of decade would correlate very strongly with, when they grew up, I suppose, but not so with Al. Interesting. Let's go. We've got final few questions here. What is your favourite film? And he has gone for 2001: A Space Odyssey, which I've never seen. But I think I might have to, because he's not the only one, spoiler alert, that has answered this question to 2001: A Space Odyssey's advantage. So I actually think it's on this Christmas. I've spotted it in the TV listings. So I might sit down with a cup of tea and give it a go. What is your favourite soundtrack? Close call, but probably Clint Mansell's score for The Fountain. I have no idea what that is. I've never heard of Clint Mansell. I've never heard of The Fountain. Let's have a look. I'll type in Clint Mansell. That's such a muso's answer. Dead Reckoning, Together We Live Forever. Oh, okay, so Clint Mansell, he did Requiem for a Dream. Here we go, The Fountain. Kronos Quartet. A film by Darren Aronofsky. Music by Clint Mansell. Maybe it's one of those I'll recognise. Again, classical. He loves his classical, does Al? But that's the thing, he loves some proper heavy metal and rock as well. This just shows how much of a crossover there is. I'm not gonna lie, Al, this sounds pretty depressing. I suppose. Oh, he also did Moon. Smoking Aces. Loving Vincent. And Requiem for a Dream. What's The Fountain about? The Fountain is... Oh, it's got Rachel Weisz. And Hugh Jackman. Maybe that's because he pictured himself in the film. The first question people ask about this is, what was the point of the Fountain movie? The Fountain's theme of fear of death is a movement from darkness into light, from black to white, that traces the journey of a man scared of death and moving toward it. Oh God. Yeah, I'm probably not going to watch that film. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, that sounds incredibly depressing. Has any song ever made you cry? If so, which one? He says, I don't think a song has actually drawn tears. Classical pieces closer, but not physical tears. Goosebumps for days, though. Fair. What have been your aims in life with regards to music? I'd really like to compose more music for screen. I'd be so good at that. I composed the soundtrack to a short film called Under the Stars, which was a really great experience. So probably more of that. I'd also like to release a solo acoustic album and solo ambient album. I'm working on both very slowly, and I will testify to that. I've been waiting for I've heard little snippets of them, and they're so good. But he just never gets around to it. Al, if you're watching this, which I hope you will, just get on with it. We may also release some more music with Heights. This is the band that, and he says, I know you want to hear that, Will. Yes, I do. I really do. It's a band that he has with, the drummer is Jay Postones, who, for those who may know, is a very talented drummer who plays with a band called Tesseract, who are pretty big. What is your musical pet peeve? Just double check this is still firmly. Yeah, good. What is your musical pet peeve? This may sound harsh, but I think people not knowing their limitations or being told they are amazing by the people around them, so they have an unrealistic or deluded impression of their ability. Yeah. I think X Factor. Something like that, I don't know. I realise I very well may, I think he meant to be one of those people. He's not. But I think you always have to be grounded as a musician. I would agree with that. I think that's something I've been really careful to emphasise in this project. I must be aware of my own limits. And that's the thing. Some people are good at some things and not so good at other things. And it's about recognising the things you're not so good at so that you can then perhaps ask other people to fill in that gap. I think that's where things really work and gel. If someone who thinks, they're just good at everything, it's not very useful. What's more important, the song or the spectacle? He says the song. Difficult one, that. Stupid question in a way. What is your proudest musical achievement? Winning Prog Magazine's Limelight Award in 2015. It was an incredible event to be at, seeing so many prog legends in one room, but on a personal note, it was an affirmation that my band was all right. No. Yeah, and they are all right. I know I've gone about it, but they're really good. From Sea to Sky is really worth checking out. That's the album that I prefer. What 3 items would you have on your rider if money were no object? Probably something really boring like studio or guitar related equipment. That is boring, Al. He follows that up with winning lottery ticket. Yeah. Fine. The last 2 questions now. What motivates you to listen to music? Listen to this. It offers escapism to the listener and can really plant you into the composer or band's world and make you feel a certain way. Whether it's a chord sequence, melody, or a production idea, it can just be a passing moment that reaches you on a deeper level. I'm not a religious person, but I believe music can hit you in a spiritual way, and it's not surprising that music is so closely tied in with different styles of worship in different religions. Interesting. In a similar way, what a good book or film can, in a similar way that a good book or film can, it can spark the imagination, but perhaps even further in some instances, as you can use music as a soundtrack to anything the mind conjures. Yeah, it means many things to different people, like so many art forms. I like that. I like the soundtrack thing. It's like when you're walking down the street and you're listening to a song, you apply it to that situation. It's just an accompaniment, isn't it? And finally, what motivates you to play music? He says, I think for musicians, composers, it offers a creative outlet or simply another means of communication. Yeah. I don't have much to add to that, but I would agree. So that is a potted breakdown of Al Heslop's attitude, thoughts, perceptions of music, his favourite Christmas song, which I'm fine with. Some of the choices that some people have made, I am not fine with. But we'll find out about that. So, I've gone on for long enough now. That's probably a reasonable amount of time. I think I'm going to just chill out now and maybe get a bit of Christmas drinkies on the go. keep an eye out for the upcoming songs. They may already be out, actually. I suspect they will be by the time I post this. So there's 2 more songs coming. Echoes of the Homeland and Live Forever. So they will be on streaming. And the rest of the album's coming out end of January. The book, remember, is available to read. Had some very, very nice feedback thus far. So if you're interested in a good read, and you don't have to like music necessarily, it's like a journey more than anything else. So give that a punt. It's on the website at the moment, willhearsey.co.uk. And yeah, stay tuned for another one of these. I've got a whole folder full of some really interesting characters, and of whom it's been a pleasure to meet and get to know. So I'll leave it there. But until next time.